help build their capacity to address the problem of human trafficking, whether it's in terms of preventing it, whether it's in terms of prosecution. But it's a huge problem, and it's going to take time to build the capacity of the government and the country to address it. If you were at that program the other day, you heard that it's not just an issue of something the government needs to do, it's something that every single Liberian needs to be part of, because everyone in their communities has a responsibility to ensure that children or women or even men are not trafficked or used in pushed into enforced servitude or being used for other things. We would anticipate that we will continue to provide some assistance, either in terms of work we do on a more general basis to build capacity for the prosecutors here, as well as for the Solicitor General's office, so in terms of helping to prepare cases when they exist. Also, potentially assistance in the area, as we have had in the past, for victims of trafficking in cases where that has been proven or been found to exist. So there are a number of areas, some of which overlap with ongoing work that we have more generally with the Ministry of Justice and the Justice Sector to help improve the administration of justice in Liberia.
Joaquin Steinberg.
Yeah, I'm Joaquin Steinberg. I report for the Daily Observer's Council. My attention is drawn to U.S. support to Liberia. I know that the United States is one of the main donor countries that help Liberia post-war recovery. The issue of our education system that U.S. spends a whole lot on through LTTP. How impressed are you over the spending that is being done in the education sector, considering some statement being made by our leader in the past that the education is a mess? Are you realizing anything out of the spending?
Well, first of all, LTTP is not the only way in which we engage in the education sector here in Liberia, but obviously it's one of our largest programs. We would agree with President Sirleaf when she says that there are a number of serious problems in the education sector. Education is something that does not happen. You cannot improve education quickly. It is something that takes time, in some cases as much as a generation, because you have to rebuild the entire system from the bottom up. We are engaged in the primary education sector largely at the request of the government, because that's really the foundation and where you can start to sort of rebuild the system and build a strong foundation for students from the beginning. And that very much hinges on trying to do teacher training so that you get qualified instructors into the classrooms. So that's the focus, obviously, of LTTP, but it's not the only thing that we do. We work to strengthen curriculum as well. There are problems. We agree completely with the President that more needs to be done. There is a new strategy that is about to be introduced on behalf of the government. In fact, we received a very quick briefing on it last Saturday at the LDA meeting that took place in Buchanan, the Liberia Development Alliance. And there are a number of steps in there that we think are very positive in helping move this process forward. So we intend to remain a partner with the government to help address the education sector, but we're not the only actor, obviously, and there's a lot more that needs to be done.
FrontPageAfrica, what do you?
Good afternoon, Madam Ambassador. My question has to do with the leaked USAID report and also the reaction of the embassy to it. This report highlighted, some issues in the Liberian society, which was reported by FrontPageAfrica. Do you care to say whether the newspaper was wrong, to report it, and also whether those issues that were highlighted, even though they were meant for internal use, whether those are actually issues that are real in Liberia?
The U.S. government, when we work in any country, we do a lot of different assessments and evaluations to try to determine whether programming that we are engaged in or that we are designing to work with a host government, Liberia or anywhere, is meeting its target if we understand the environment in which we are working. That's the purpose of this report. That report, as it's been sensationalized by FrontPageAfrica, that somehow there's, secret information in there, information that we do not want people to see. The issue is more because we hire contractors to come in and do this. It's one person's or a group of people's opinion and analysis based on conversations or information that they have. The reason it's sensitive from our perspective is that the people to whom we speak, in order to ensure that we get sort of honest information or believe that we're getting honest information, we want to protect that so that people don't feel that if they speak to us, if we ask them questions, that they're somehow going to be vulnerable to someone coming along and saying, how dare you say that? Again, it's one snapshot of a contractor's interpretation of what the political environment looks like here. So we take that information. We don't always agree with everything that's in it, or we don't necessarily disagree. And in fact, I think many people will find that what is in that report in some cases is nothing different than has been seen or said by a number of people both in Liberia and outside Liberia, that other reports have said similar things. But we certainly understand why FrontPageAfrica or any other journalism outfit that might have this in their hand would feel like they needed to publish it. I mean, that's what newspapers do, right? That's what journalistic outlets do. It should never, but in our regard, when we have reports that are intended for internal use of government, we don't appreciate it when they are released inappropriately and without our knowledge.
And a follow-up question. There has been, this report from the U.S. State Department, and you have consistently, even though sometimes you raise these issues, and you have consistently, been guarded in your statements regarding what's going on the ground. When we see these reports, coming out of the Department of State, and then when we don't hear any strong, comments on issues from the American embassy. You as ambassador, how is, your relationship with the president or government officials when these damning reports, are released? Well,
you're sort of making a very hypothetical statement. What specific reports are you talking about?
The 2013 Human Rights Report and issues that were highlighted.
Actually, I would argue that the 2013, this year, the current, the newest Human Rights Report is actually a better situation than last year. The reality is that we stand by what's in our Human Rights Report. The President herself last year, in one event, I forget where, that was held, she actually quoted from our Human Rights Report and repeated some of the same language that said, we continue to have problems in the area of rule of law. The courts aren't functioning properly. And she went through, she took a whole quote from the one section of the Human Rights Report. Yes, there's some negative information in there, but the reality is, as we all know, there are some things that still need to be worked on and still need improvement, and will need for a number of years, because it takes resources, it takes time, it takes people. I mean, there are a lot of reasons why. So we stand by what's in our report. We think it's a fairly accurate reflection of what goes on here. I'm not sure as the embassy what we can add to what's in the report, because we spend a lot of time collecting information, talking to people, and trying to compile it all and put it together in a way that presents an accurate picture of what the situation is on the ground. But I would take exception to say that I don't say negative things publicly. In fact, I do, and we certainly do try to call the government's attention to problems and things that they need to correct. I participate in a number of meetings with government officials, civil society, other people who are present, and constantly are making points about things that need to continue to be fixed. But I guess my approach, just even on a personal level, is simply attacking and saying negative things doesn't tend to make whoever you're having a conversation with feel inclined to do anything. So the issue is to present the problem in a way where we have this issue, what can we do together, or how can we solve it, or what do you need to do, in our opinion, to try to fix that. So I guess that's my approach generally, but I can assure you that my conversations with the President, with all members of the government, frankly, with anyone I speak with, it's usually pretty frank and pretty direct. That's the way to get information shared and to really understand where people stand on a particular issue. But that can be done in a way that's not antagonistic, because that's not our goal. Our goal ultimately on the U.S. government side is to help continue to move Liberia forward and address the problems that need to be addressed. Either together, if there are things that we can help with, or things that the government itself needs to do on its own.
The newspaper, Lucas Andrews.
My ambassador, my name is Lucas Andrews from the newspaper.